Coming up on Theater Talk.
I have this idea that actor, you don't have to know what an actor's talking about. You just have to know that he knows.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
With a bunch of no-good scum in the first place for?
Oh, they ain't my friends.
What are they then?
Had some business with them.
What kind of business?
Oh, you know, some of that. None of your business.
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
And I'm the show's producer, Susan Haskins.
One of my favorite performances this season on Broadway is by Christopher Walken in the play of Behanding in Spokane. He, of course, is one of our great actors, and I'm very pleased that after this big movie career he's had, he's coming back to Broadway. Welcome to Broadway, and welcome to Theater Talk, Chris.
Hi, thanks.
Great to see you. I read in a terrific profile of you written by me in the New York Post that as much as you love doing serious theater, dramatic plays, you love musicals. And you said to me in the piece that you would love to do a musical version of that great old Vincent Price movie, Theater of Blood. And since that article came out, I understand some people have actually contacted you and made this project start to happen?
Yeah, there's a couple of people who have been working on that. I'm not surprised. You know, it seems obvious. I don't know whether I'd want to do it, but I think it's a very good idea for a musical. The movie's a lot of fun. There's too many murders.
Yeah. For people who haven't seen the movie, what's it about?
It's about an actor who had a big career as a Shakespearean actor, but he always got terrible reviews. And he keeps them in this big book. It's kind of masochistic thing. He'll open the book and read this review that says that he should never set foot on the stage again. And he has this bunch of acolytes who sit around, and he decides to kill all the people who said these things about him.
To kill all the London drama critics.
Yeah, and according to Shakespeare.
Yeah.
So Robert Morley is one, he's got these poodles. So he does, it's my favorite one, really. It's the Titus Andronicus one, where he gets Robert Morley's poodles and he bakes them in a big pie, and then Robert Morley eats them.
It's perfect for a musical.
And now, the part, it would be perfect for you. I mean, it's this larger-than-life Shakespearean actor, and you love musicals. I can't imagine anyone else doing it.
And if you know, with a musical, the music is so important.
Right.
And you know, if somebody says to me, "Let's go see a show," I always say, you know, let's see a musical.
Why?
I love musicals.
And you yourself started in
I started in them,
yeah.
and I spent a lot of time doing them.
You were kind of a chorus boy.
I was a chorus boy, and then I toured stuff like West Side Story and for a long time. But I love musicals.
Now, when this article appeared and producers have come to you, did they say, we're actually working on this show, we have a score?
They're having some sort of, invited me to hear some of the songs.
Really?
Yeah.
Who's doing it, do you know?
There are two different people working on it. I don't know if they know about each other, but I do now.
So you get to pick which score you like better?
I'll play them off against each other.
Excellent. In Behanding in Spokane, which is at the Jerry Schoenfeld Theater, correct?
Yes.
Running till June 6th?
Yeah.
Any chance of extending? I mean, you got great reviews. And
yeah, I guess they could do it a little bit longer.
Would you stick around with it?
I think I would.
Right. Going back to your musical theater roots, one of the things I noticed about your performance in this play, you're playing a menacing but funny guy who had his hand hacked off many years ago, and you're looking for the hand. But it's a wonderfully physical performance, just the way you sort of move about on the stage. Does that all come from your dancing background, your physicality on the stage?
I guess, you know, if you play a part, and there's a lot of stuff I have to do, I've got a lot of props and so forth, and to do all that with one hand is tricky.
Yeah.
You have to bite things and, you know, carry things in your teeth and kick them around with your feet, and then you have to find a way to do that. And then the other night a piece of paper got stuck to my shoe and I had to get it off. And I had to do it with my foot.
But those are sort of great, those moments.
Well, I guess, but yeah, having to do things with one hand brings up a lot of stuff.
Do you choreograph the whole? All
No,
the
it
stuff
just happens.
It just happens.
Yeah.
So you're not an actor.
In rehearsal.
So you don't work everything out, every little bit out. You just.
Well, in rehearsal, that's the thing about the theater. You know, you try to find. Our director said to me one day that looking for a serendipity, you know, some sort of accident that works, and then you try to, and then if it works, you can repeat it. It becomes part of the performance.
Who is your director?
John Crowley.
And how much of the blocking did he have worked out before you came into the mix?
Well, he had a lot worked out, but in rehearsal, then stuff happens.
The other thing that to me is the most startlingly wonderful about your performance is your intonation, your line readings. Do you work those? Do you almost like say, oh, how does it sound if I say it like this? How does it sound if I say it like that? Because you're so offbeat. Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I do it in my kitchen by myself, and usually I'm doing something else, cooking or something, and I have the script on a counter, and I read it not loud but out loud, and sometimes stuff just sounds good.
And then what's the determination to you if it
Then
works?
I keep it.
It's interesting you say she's talking about your line readings, which you're famous for. I mean, people, the quirky line reading, the eccentric line reading. You often remind me of a wonderful actor, Patrick McGowan, who would read lines in ways totally unexpected. Is that something that you always did, or something that you have developed as a kind of Christopher Walken signature part of your acting?
I don't know. All that is mysterious to me, but I think it has a lot to do with my basic training, which was in musicals and in dancing, and it's that rhythm thing, you know, hearing stuff in beats, and you know, frankly, 8 counts.
How does that work?
And combination, you know, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, and then you hear some kind of what do they call it in England? Skittle.
Yes, right.
Yeah, you hear a kind of jazz. You know, that's how.
And that's how you hear a play when you're reading it in your kitchen?
That's how I hear my part.
Well, it is like jazz. It is. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Because I have this idea that actor, you don't have to know what an actor's talking about. You just have to know that he knows.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've had that in being in foreign countries. I've gone to the theater and watched a play.
Right.
And not known what was going on. But it was wonderful to watch because I knew that they knew, you know, they were.
Right. You know, some of the actors tell me when you're doing Shakespeare, if you forget the lines, if you keep the rhythm going, the audience doesn't know that you've forgotten the speech.
Yeah, but you have to be good at that.
Yeah.
I know an actor who would do that, and he would just go off, but he was really good at it. If I'm doing Shakespeare and I forget my line, I'm in big trouble.
You can't versify?
No.
Speaking of Shakespeare, you have done a fair amount of Shakespeare. I saw years ago a brilliant Coriolanus that you did at the Public Theater, all in leather, I remember.
Yeah.
Directed by, who was it?
Yes. Stephen Burkhoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I haven't had a lot of good things in Shakespeare, but that was a good one.
Yeah. Why is that when you say you haven't had a lot of good things in Shakespeare? Is it something that you don't feel comfortable doing?
I think it's hard for American actors, period. There are some American actors who do it great, you know, Kevin Kline and Stacy Keach and Frank Langella, but for most of us, I think it's pretty tough. It has to do with, I don't know.
Do you enjoy it, Shakespeare?
I like it, and it's been very valuable to me in certain ways. I've played things and not been successful at all, but having to do that is it's a very valuable training.
It's when one reads interviews with you, did you not say that, I mean, you take many things you're offered. You're known for working constantly and taking everything. And you said that even the bad things you learn from them.
Oh, sure. And I've done a lot of Shakespeare and not been good most of the time. but doing it, you know, I played Hamlet 3 times, and I never was much good. Romeo twice, not really much good. I was Richard II, and that was really awful. We talked about that.
See, I would think you'd be terrific.
I would think you would be perfect for as a young Hamlet. You would have been dashing and good-looking, and
yeah, those, you know.
But Richard II, I'm sick of Hamlet, but Richard II, I would think you'd be great.
No.
No. Okay.
Did you know when you were doing these Shakespeares that they weren't good?
When I was doing, oh yes, and that's another thing, you know, to be on stage doing something, and know that you're not good is tremendous. You know, that takes. Laurence Olivier said that an actor has to be sensitive and yet have to have a hide like a rhinoceros, and there's something in that. You know, you have to be able to, you know, be there, and you also have to be pretty resilient. Because
sorry, you finish.
No, because you know, basically it has to do with, you know, keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep going.
Now you told me that you don't read your reviews until the show's over.
I wait a while.
You wait a while,
but I do read them. Very interested.
Really?
Glad you. I hope you like those Behanding reviews.
Well, I got everything in a big envelope.
Yeah.
But just like Vincent Price in Theater of Blood, wandering around with his.
I hadn't thought of that.
Do you read your bad reviews too?
Oh, sure.
And you learn something from those as well?
I keep everything.
Really? Everything written about you?
Yeah. Because, well, I mean, I read your interview the other day, and I read it a few times, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. You know, just something about yourself that you didn't notice.
But that's a puff. What hadn't you noticed?
Oh, I'm not going to say it now, but you know, that's what happens. You see some little thing, and you notice something about yourself.
I'd like to ask you about your childhood. You said you had the hide of a rhinoceros, and we know.
No, I don't. You have to try.
Try, and you have great sensitivity and an incredible work ethic. Where did you get that?
Don't know.
Don't know. Well, I mean, no. So I mean, because I read your father ran a bakery, was really.
My father worked very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. My father was the hardest working person I have personally known, and the great thing about it was that he did that because that's what he loved to do.
Yeah.
He had a bakery
in Queens, right?
In Queens, it was his bakery.
And he was a German American.
He was German American. He came here as an adult and from difficult circumstances. My mother too. You know, post World War I Europe, and you know, they came to America, and it was great. And my father had a bakery, and he loved it. He went there 7 days a week. Some people work hard because they have to, but he really loved it.
And as you love acting and
Yeah.
work, and your mother put you in show business.
My mother was smitten with show business.
When she said you're going into show business, do you remember that? How'd you feel about it?
I don't remember. I have 2 brothers. We all did that, and so did a lot of kids in those days.
What'd she have you doing?
In the 50s, after the war, you know, television got started, and it all came from New York. There was no videotape.
Yeah.
There were 90 live shows from New York every week. A lot of them, we were saying 15 minutes, they used a lot of kids. You know, TV was very family-oriented, and especially holidays. They just bring kids in and stick them around like, you know, plants.
And that'd be you.
And that'd be me. And there were schools for those kids so that they could do that. 3 of them. And it was a big thing. Then videotape got invented someplace in the late 50s, and everything moved to California. Yeah. But in those days, all that TV came from, I would say, 6-block radius out of Rockefeller Center.
So Studio 54 and the Ed Sullivan's Theater was over there?
Well, where David Letterman is now,
That's
I think was Ed Sullivan.
Yeah.
Any chance you would have gone to work in your father's bakery at all?
I did, sure. I often did.
So then when did you become a chorus boy?
Oh, you know, when I was a teenager, because I'd always gone to dancing school. So it was just a natural step to you know, go and audition for a show. And
you told me you auditioned for Jerome Robbins. You auditioned for the great ones.
Oh, yeah. I did a lot of auditioning. Yeah. And I wasn't a great dancer, but I was tall.
And so poised. I mean, from that things I've seen, you had such poise. You still do.
Well, the tall dancer, he doesn't have to dance that great. It's kind of a premium. You can stick him in the back. You can still see him.
You reminded me of Tommy Tune a bit.
Well, in fact, Tommy Tune and I did a musical together called Baker Street.
Right, of course, yeah.
We had a big number, and in fact, that number, me and Tommy Tune, another guy named Avon Harum, we were the villains in this kind of ballet that ended the first act, and it was very successful. And from that, I got asked to audition for The Lion in Winter. So I think that's really where my acting career came from.
Because I was wondering how you went from being a chorus boy to winning an Academy Award for The Deer Hunter within a very short period of time.
I was in Baker Street. I got asked to audition for The Lion in Winter, which was originally done on Broadway with Robert Preston and Rosemary Harris. And a guy who used to walk around saying, "I'm writing this musical with my friend." And everybody said, "Yeah, right." And it was James Rado who wrote Hair.
Oh, that's right. He was in that. That's right.
He was the Richard.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize it was Lionel Richard.
Yeah,
Lion Winter, yeah.
and so he wrote Hair.
Yeah.
And I think I guess he.
Was he like a straight guy then? I mean, straight, I mean, non-drug. I love you, James Rado. Was he different then?
No, he was a very handsome guy. He was a terrific actor. And, he was writing a musical. But he turned out to write, one of the monster musicals
I
of all
know.
time.
Yeah.
We love him.
I really never saw him after that. But, yeah.
So how'd you get, how did you get to
And then
Deer
I got
Hunter?
into a movie.
And
Yeah.
a lot of people know your background in the theater, but you've worked with some of the real legends of the theater. What was Robert Preston, who was one of my favorites, what was he like?
Really a great actor, and he was very good to me. They were going to fire me because I was so nervous.
Really? And this being your first non-musical job?
Yeah, I was terrified. And he was very nice to me, and in fact, he interceded. He said, give him a minute.
And they were going to fire you because they could see you were nervous on stage, or you didn't?
I had a scene with him.
What were you playing?
I was the King of France.
Yes, I don't know why that's funny, but it is.
It is. Hey, hello, I'm the King of France. Who are you? and I had to pour him this goblet of wine and hand it to him. And I had on this ridiculous outfit. And I handed him, and my hand was shaking, and it would spill all over the place. And they said, you're a nice guy, but we're going to have to, get somebody else. And he said, give him a chance. And he was very nice to me.
Did he give you any advice about calming the nerves?
He said, yes. He said, don't stand there repeating your lines all day long. He said, you know your lines. He said, just
go out and do it.
I used to just stand there constantly mumbling my lines. Then when I'd walk on, of course, I'd forget them.
Another great that you worked with, you were telling me about the other day, and you have some wonderful observations about him, was Noel Coward, because he did High Spirits, is a musical that he directed that you were dancing in.
It was the musical of his play Blithe Spirit, with Tammy Grimes, B. Lilly, and he directed it. I think it was the last thing he did. He was, I think, not in great health, but he was wonderful.
Didn't he take you out to dinner?
He did. We put this number in very quickly, and it worked. Me and two other guys, a number with B. Lilly called "Something Is Coming to Tea," and it was very complicated. And it worked. And he took us to supper. I don't want to drag it out, but it was great. We all sat in this kind of Sardi's place in Boston.
You're out of town with the show.
He said, "Will you have a drink?" And I said, "Well, I'll have a Coke." And all the other guys said, "Yeah, Coke." And he said, "Well, I'll have a Coca-Cola also." And then, "What would you like to eat?" And somebody said, "Tuna fish sandwich." And then the other two said, "Yes, tuna fish sandwich." And he said, "Yes, I'll have a tuna fish sandwich." So we all had Cokes and tuna fish sandwiches. And he ate his sandwich with a knife and fork. I'll never forget. So he was absolutely charming.
And in total control as the director, right? He really felt this was a man who knew everything.
Everybody respected him so much.
Yeah.
And very nice.
And B. Lilly?
Yeah.
B. Lilly was great. Eccentric, of course.
Yeah.
But she got the longest hand I've ever seen in a Broadway show. She finished this number about poltergeists or something, and I used to time it. They would applaud for 4, 5, 6 minutes. That's really something. And I was being a big dancer. Her entrance was on a bicycle.
That's right.
As Madame Arcadi, right?
As Madame Arcadi, and she'd fly on stage on this bicycle, but somebody had to push her.
Right.
And I was the guy, and I did that every night for, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. And one night she turned to me and she said, "Oh, you must be the new boy."
Oh, there.
That's wonderful. We only have a few minutes left, but going back to Behanding, now that you're an iconic actor, are you an actor who, are you a method actor? When you're preparing this menacing figure in Behanding, do you go deep, deep down into the character? Is that the kind of actor you are?
No.
No. How do you approach a role like this? This guy who's a killer, who's dangerous. I mean, the whole time he's on stage, you don't know what he's going to do to the other people there.
Yeah. You know, I always, with me, it's never changed much from when I was 9 years old, you know. It's, I'll be this and you be that, and we'll pretend, and my friends and I used to go see movies, particularly war movies or any kind of action type of thing. Then we'd go and do the movie out in the lot next door, and it's still like that.
That's the Chris Walken School of Acting.
That's what it is.
Have you taken acting lessons over the years?
I have.
Did you study with serious teachers?
Yes.
And?
You know, basically it's the 7-year-old thing. Let's have fun.
And thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, you told me the director at one point when you were talking, he said, now, because this guy's with one hand, and the director said, "Now, Chris, what do you think is going on inside? What's going on inside this guy? How's he feeling?"
Yeah, we did talk about that, you know, what it was all, you know, what's his life. And I said, you know what I think this is? This is like about watching Chris run around with one hand.
Well, it kind of is, and that's why it's kind of fabulous.
But you see, I like that approach to acting, and I think that's the kind of approach that Noel Coward would have had.
I think
because I've read what Noel Coward said about acting, and he said, you know, you have to have a natural ability to make the character come alive. He said, but then you just have to have basic technique to do it, and then you just do it.
Yes, you know, it's very difficult for me to talk about these things, but I do think that are you glad you're there? Are you glad you're watching? Is this entertaining? I love that moment in the Gladiator movie where Russell Crowe throws his knives into the ground and he says, "Are you entertained?" That's da, 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 da.
It is clear you're having so much fun.
It
up
is.
there
I mean, that's why
well,
you're
that
so
is
much fun to watch.
contagious. Of course
and
it
it's
is.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Hey,
sure.
they wrote in Playbill or somewhere that you were the last person cast in that production. Is that true?
Yes. Well, the part was written for somebody 20 years younger than me.
Because it's hard to imagine that play without you.
We had to bump up all the ages
Oh.
in the play. I think he says I've been searching for my hand for 27 years. But then they got me, and I said, well, I can't say that. I said, make it 47 years and make my mother 90-something. and I said, the whole thing is funnier. First of all, a guy, you know, my age, still chasing around for his hand, and his mother's climbing trees.
Yes.
And he still lives with his mother, and he's afraid of her, and she finds his porn magazines, and it's just funnier.
All right, the play is Behanding in Spokane at the Schoenfeld Theater. A lot of talk about extending. You think would you stay on with it past June 6th?
I think I would, you know, for a while.
Yeah, you're having a good time. And after that, you're open to Theater of Blood, possibly?
Got to hear the music.
I think that's very,
Some enchanted evening.
very smart. And what, you got 4 movies in production, something like that?
No, I have lots of movies that never came out.
Oh, because when you look at your IMDb listing here, there's like, I think
No,
5 of them here. They're not coming out?
In the elephant boneyard.
Don't hold your breath. Do you get disappointed by that when they don't come out?
Yes,
yeah?
of course.
You spend all your time, and
especially if if you think you're okay in them.
Yeah.
It just means more theater from you. That can't be bad for us who go to the theater regularly.
Or something. Aromatherapy.
Don't miss Chris Walken in Behanding in Spokane at the Schoenfeld Theater. Terrific actor, great storyteller, and delightful guy. Thank you for being our guest tonight on the Theater Talk.
Ma, what took you so long? Pick up the phone, Ma. I've been standing here a fucking hour. A tree. Which tree? No, he didn't tell me. You fell out of a tree. You must have forgotten that. Of course I don't have any black friends. What the hell are you talking about? What the hell are you climbing up a tree for in the first place at your age? That's what I said, isn't it?
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Loewe Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Alan S. Gordon Foundation, the CORY and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy STRELSIN Foundation, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.